guys, how's it going? So today we're planting a bunch of beautiful things out in the garden, and as I'm standing here in the shade, it's the weirdest thing that we're in June and I feel like I could use a second layer right now. Like I could go get a vest and be very, very comfortable. I know I'll warm up once we start working, but boy, it's been nice. Look at all these beautiful things. Now, first of all, we've got some leftovers from other projects that I'm hoping to do today. So like the calendula, we got rained out the other day. So I'm hoping to get these in that little area in the cut flower garden that we just set up. There's the bunny tails. Poor bunny tails. They're gonna probably just hang out in the gator forever until I find the right spot. I've got one of the Echinacea we planted on the west side that was tucked into a corner in the greenhouse. I didn't see it, so we're gonna get that one in the ground. But then the new stuff today, we've got two brand new plants for 2023 that I wanted to show you that I am really excited about. Look at this Echinacea. Oh my goodness, it's called One in a Melon, which I think is a perfect name. I love Echinacea. They're tough. They take our hot sun. They're drought tolerant once established. These flowers are huge. And they just provide so much interest starting about midsummer when it's really, really hot, and they go all the way through the end of the year. Plus, when they're done, when the petals dry up and fall off, the seed heads add gorgeous texture to the garden, so I leave them up all winter. Plus, they attract pollinators, which is always an added benefit, but this one grows about 2 feet tall and about as wide. I've got a few here to make a drift out in the south garden. Let me give you a peek at this other Echinacea. So this is the raspberry beret that we planted over on the west side. Isn't that beautiful? Both of these varieties are a zone 4 through 8, but oh, gorgeous color. And then we have a brand new summerific hibiscus called Lilac Crush. So I'm sure we can find some pictures I hope to put up on the screen, but you can kind of see there. Large, like 7 to 8 inch flowers that skew lavender to blue. Now clearly I've never grown this variety before, but they say that in cooler environments, cooler climates, the flowers will be a little bit more on the blue side, and in warmer climates a little bit more on the lavender side. So I'm guessing that here in the summer, I mean, we are expecting a little bit warmer temperatures coming. It will get hot eventually, but I'm guessing that they'll be more on the lavender side for us. The thing about hibiscus is that they grow fresh from the ground every year, so you do cut them back, usually late winter, early spring. I cut ours back to about 6 inches tall, but the new growth will come from the base, and once they start growing, and they don't break dormancy until like usually sometime this May, like end of May is when you start seeing growth. Once they break dormancy, they grow to their full size every single season, really, really fast. And they're one of those things that you look at in your garden, you think it's dead, and you have to resist the urge to pull it up and give it enough time to allow it to break dormancy. It just needs that warmth in order to get going. So I remember when I was down at the garden center, that was one of our, one of the #1 asked things in the spring. We would get people in saying like, I planted this, dinner plate hibiscus and it's showing no growth, nothing. What do I do with it? Should I dig it up? And I always told people to give it extra time, and usually they didn't need to dig it up. This one is a zone 4 through 9, and it is a problem solver type plant because it can take really wet soil, like boggy areas, so long as it has a lot of sun. They do prefer full sun, just like the Echinacea. But I had a spot like that in our last garden when we were in the townhouse, because our townhouse set right kind of at the bottom of a hill, and it was one corner in our backyard that just water just pooled there. And so I ended up planting things like this and birch and Joe Pye weed and dogwoods, and they seem to really utilize all of that water. So if you have a space like that, would be a really good one. And so with the black lace elderberry, that's the other thing we're putting in the ground today. Hey Russell. Oh, and cheddar. Here they come. I've talked a lot about black lace elderberries just because we have several in our garden, and they are awesome, awesome plants. Ooh, there's a little spider. See that little green thing in there? Huh. I'll leave that one alone. They can take full sun, they can take crummy soil, and they're just a low maintenance, kind of fuss-free plant while adding a ton of beauty to the garden. And ours get regular irrigation, just kind of with our drip system with everything else, but they can withstand wetter soils like the hibiscus. The funny thing about black lace elderberries is that I think the tag states that they get 6 to 8 feet tall and wide, and they get at least double that in our area. They love it here. They love our climate. So I think it just depends on where you're at. Not everything thrives that well here, so we like to lean on things that will do that for us. In other areas, we've been to Mackinac Island a couple of times, and we have noticed that, like Jack Barnwell, he uses a lot of black lace elderberries, but they're more as almost an accent shrub, like they're tucked into small areas. And we could never do that here, because even if we cut ours way back, like to knee, or usually I'll go like hip high, we'll cut them back to about that high every year, they still get like 12, feet plus tall and wide. They're amazing shrubs. They do bloom on old wood though, so if you want to enjoy these blooms, you have to be very mindful about when you are trimming them. So kind of like a lilac or a forsythia, you would want to trim them immediately after they're done blooming so they still have time that current season to form their buds for next year. Sometimes I leave mine alone so that they can bloom. In fact, I'm going to show you one in our back garden. And sometimes I cut them back in late winter, early spring and forfeit the blooms just to keep them on the smaller side. And it's kind of a good time of year to do a big cutback like that. So most of these things, actually, I think all of these things are going out to the south garden. So before we head out there, I want to show you the black lace in the back garden. Look at this. It's just absolutely enormous. We did not cut it back this last year because I really wanted to let it bloom, but we cut it back the year before, back to about hip high, which I don't know how high that is for me. But anyway, fairly short. Look at all the blooms. I do notice every spring, like I haven't done it yet, I need to go in and kind of cut out a few little dead branches. I see one there, there's one kind of popping up there, and one right there, but like that's pretty much it. That's all I would have to do if I never wanted to size control this one, which, you know, now at this point, since this is going to be incorporated into the garden, I don't mind it getting as big as it is. But the bloom discs are just amazing. So they start out with like kind of pinkish buds, you can see on this one, and as they age they kind of lighten up, and then this one right here is older, so it's a little bit more on the white side. We use these a lot in place of Japanese maples in full sun areas because Japanese maples scorch in our full sun, but these don't, and they give you kind of that Japanese maple vibe. You can see there's another one right back there. Also, you can see the alliums are in bloom. Those are ambassador alliums coming up from above the boxwoods that I have not trimmed this year. It's getting a bit late, so I probably won't. They're looking really good. It's so fun to have some things that are mature. We've done so much destruction in this garden and pulling things out and planting baby gardens that to have something that's large and mature to show you is so fun. Okay, let's head to the south garden. Let's get these things planted, and then I'll give you a tour of where they all ended up. Got them all planted and watered in for today. I'm still going to need to run drip to all of them, so that will be my last step. But I wanted to show you from this perspective because you can kind of see, well, if I move this way, you can see the cut flower shed over there and the berry beds, and we're wanting to create a thicker barrier right here, or a thicker border, and we have our large pieces, our large trees in place. It's just going to take them a while to get, you know, to their bigger sizes. So it'll be nice to kind of bridge the gap with some larger shrubs. So right here, we do have the 3 hibiscus, which I figured would be a good choice for this area. One, because I didn't have to plant them that deep because they had smaller root balls and we've got a lot of stuff going on right here. And they will die back in the winter. So it'll be easy to access all of this stuff. I do plan on putting something like a larger shrub right in this area here. We do have a forest pansy redbud right here. So I thought this would be kind of a nice lower level. We do have some daffodils in here. And then the 3 black lace elderberry are there, and here. I think it's going to be absolutely perfect in this space. We've got the blue spruce there, and a Norway spruce, a Corinthian linden, and then this is a Shawnee brave bald cypress right here, Montana moss juniper. So with the size that these get, I mean, they're going to create a nice visual block like in a couple of years, because they grow so fast. And then looking from a little bit of a different perspective, we do have a gin fizz juniper, which they get quite big. There's a lilac in here. We've got the blue spruce. We did plant some baptisia, which is looking gorgeous. In fact, when we dug the hole for this one, for the Norway spruce, I was afraid we were going to wreck one of the plantings, and it survived. Look at it. They've got beautiful blooms. This was the hardest digging I have done on this property to date. We do have quite a bit of hard pan. That spot was really hard, and then the Spring Grove arborvitae that we planted kind of in the middle section of the loop over on the other corner, that was hard digging too. That's kind of where the Echinacea ended up, so let's head that direction. Oh, you guys look at the grapes. They're doing really well, even the ones that I thought died in a cold snap. Before the Echinacea, we're making a quick stop over here because we did get those Lady Godiva yellow calendulas planted in here, which are gonna be so pretty. So right on the interior of either one of those brick kind of raised bed areas, they're just gonna fill in that spot and provide nice, bright, sunshiny yellow happy color for the rest of the season. And I was able to fit 8. I spaced them roughly 12 inches, a little bit more than 12 inches apart, which might be overdoing it a bit, but it'll be pretty. And you can see they run right alongside a piece of drip tape. We still have yet to mulch this area. That will come later when we have a chance and have some time to do it. Oh, the cinnamon curl pumpkins are up. What? Oh, look at that. And the wolf pumpkins. Look, there's a weed, but look at the other green. Nothing on Casperita yet. A whole bunch of zinnias up. What do we got over here? Okay, nothing so far on Howdens or on Jack B. Littles. Not yet anyway. We do have sunflowers coming up and corn popping through. Oh, that's exciting. Here they are, 7, 1 in a melon Echinacea, which start here and then kind of swing back behind the betony that we just planted. That looks really good. I'm really thankful that we had the rain because I forgot to run drip to it, and they look just great. It doesn't look like they ever wilted or suffered, thankfully. So I will make sure to get out here and run drip to everything that we planted today. But I think that that will be a really nice blend together because I think on normal schedule, they'll be blooming about the same time. Everything is filling in, and Paul was spreading compost over here the other day, and it looks so good. Oh, there's Benny. They're gonna start irrigation in the orchard maybe today. Yay! And you guys, that is going to be it for today's projects. I hope you enjoyed seeing all of these plants go in, kind of the next piece of the puzzle. It's really fun to kind of see everything connecting together out here, just a little bit at a time. I'm just loving it. But my job is not completely done. I will get drip run to everything today so that we make sure that everything is, kept moist out here now that we are starting to warm up a bit. I do need to go do a bunch of watering around the greenhouse. So that's the next chore in my day. I hope you guys are all having a great one. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next video. Bye.